All right, Unit 5, Lesson 1, Investigation 2, Designing Parabolas, Part 1. We'll talk about Designing Parabolas, Part 2 tomorrow. To get started, what's a parabola?
A curved line.
A curved line, a U shape?
Yeah.
Yeah? How do I make that U shape?
You gotta have an x squared.
I gotta have an x squared. What are x squared functions called? X squared functions?
Direct.
Yeah,
variation.
quadratic functions. So parabola is the graph of a quadratic function. Okay. That means it has an x squared in it. Okay. Quadratic function means it has an x squared in it. Okay. Our graph will look like this. There'll be a U shape either up or a U shape down. How many times will that U shape ever cross the y-axis?
Once.
Once, because the function. It only crossed the y-axis once with the function. How many times could it cross the x? Could cross the x twice, right? Does it have to cross the x though?
No.
No. It could be anywhere between 2, 1, or 0 times crossing the x-axis. Okay. So that's a parabola graph of a quadratic function. Over here I have the same thing, so if you can't see over there, I'll write it here too. Gentlemen, I'll be able to hear what you're saying later. John, I'll be able to hear what you're saying later. Okay. General forms. Okay. The general forms for a parabola. There's two general forms. One, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay. A, b, and c are all constants. My only variables are x and y. X is still independent, y is still dependent. This is called the expanded form.
What's a constant?
A constant is a number that doesn't change. Okay? It's called our expanded form. Now the other general form, y equals a times x minus m times x minus n, this is called the factored form. Now do you guys remember doing FOIL last year? First, last, outsides, insides? Well, FOIL, if I take my factored form and I FOIL it, then I'll get my expanded form. All right? If I take this factored form and I do firsts, outsides, insides, lasts, then I'll get something that looks like this. Okay? The only one that stays the same is the A. The A in these two will be the same. All right? The B's and the C's are actually combinations of M and N. B is actually M plus N. C is M times N. And we'll cover that later on this unit. Okay? But if I FOIL A times x minus n, then we'll get the expanded form. So it's still the same equation, just looks different. All right? A lot of times students look at this one and say, well, that's not a parabola because it doesn't have what? A square. Right? Students look at this and they say it's not a parabola because there's no x squared. But if we FOIL it, then we get our x squared. Okay, does that make sense? All right. All right, now we'll come back to this A and M and N in a little bit. I will leave between 4 and 5 lines. So I'd write A dash, leave 1 line here, 1 line there. M and N dash, 1 line here, 1 line there. So leave between 4 and 5. If you're a big writer, like to write a lot, then maybe 5. But we'll come back to that. Bless you. All right, so these are equations for parabolas, and we're going to use those equations to find a couple things. So what we need to know how to do. One thing we need to know how to do is find the x-intercept. Okay? How do I find an x-intercept? Anybody know? You guys remember? We did it last Monday. No. How do I find an x-intercept? Put 0 in for y. Good. We find an x-intercept by letting y equal 0. So y equals 0, and we solve for what? No, you're not.
Why?
Okay. So y equals 0 and solve for x. Because the x-intercept is where we cross the x-axis, right? And the x-axis is when y is 0. How do I find my y-intercept?
0 in for x.
Put 0 in for x. Okay? And we solve for what? So x equals 0 and solve for y. Kind of a recap of last Monday, right? Right? Mr. Kuhn again. All right, now we're going to use this equation, and we're going to find our x-intercepts and our y-intercepts. Okay, so if you're taking notes, maybe you want to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 off on the left side of your page, and we want to work the example on the right side of your page. That might be a good idea. All right, if you cut your page in half, if you didn't do that already, don't bother erasing. Just do it from now on. Okay, just kind of cut in half a little bit. All right. So find the x-intercept. Little 1 next to it. That means that y equals what again? 0. So I take this equation and I plug in 0 for what? No. Y. Right? We're finding our x-intercept. Okay. We'll find our y-intercept in a second. Okay. So we plug in 0 for y, and we get this. Now a lot of us are probably looking at that and saying, whoa. Never done a problem like this before. You want to distribute, don't you, John? Okay. If you distribute, you're going to make a problem that we can't solve yet. Okay. We'll learn how to solve it later on. So resist the urge to distribute. Okay. This is the only time where we're not going to simplify first. Okay. Because usually we simplify first, then solve, right? We're not going to simplify first here. Right? If I look at this equation, I want to figure out when this whole thing equals 0, right? Now we said earlier, a parabola crosses the x-axis how many times? Once or twice, right? Now, if it crosses the x-axis twice, that means there's how many x values that make this equal 0? 2. There's 2 possible x values that'll make this 0, okay? And we find them in these factors. Okay? We find them in these factors, the x minus 2 and the x minus 6. Okay? So I can make this whole thing equal 0 if one of the factors equals 0. You guys agree with that? If I can find a number that makes this x minus 2 0, won't this whole side then be 0? Yeah. If this right here, this factor somehow becomes 0, and we have 2 times 0 times x minus 6, won't that whole thing be 0? Doesn't matter what this is, does it? Because anything times 0 is 0. Okay? So for our x-intercepts, what we need to do is we need to find when the factors equal 0. Okay, we got to find when the factors equal 0. So to do that, it's kind of an easy process. We take our 2 factors, x minus 2 and x minus 6, and we set those equal to what? What do you guys think? The number so far the whole time? 0. We set them equal to 0. So we do 0 equals x minus 2, and 0 equals x minus 6. Now we took a very difficult problem, John, that we wanted to distribute on, right? And I turned it into 2 one-step algebra problems. Made a difficult problem easy, right? You guys see how I did that? Okay, Aaron, what's your question?
What happened to the 2?
What happened to the 2? The 2 is not a part of my factors, so we don't need it anymore. Okay? Doug? Same question. Okay, so one more time. If we can find the x values that make this factor 0 rock, okay, if I can find the x that makes this 0, then this whole side will be 0, won't it? Because we 2 times 0, right? 2 times 0 is 0. And it doesn't matter what this is, because when I multiply by 0, we still get 0. Or if I can find what makes this 0, then we know we found our x-intercepts. Okay. So, x minus 2. How do I get rid of the 2?
Add.
Add it. So plus 2, plus 2. So 2 equals x. That make sense? Yeah? Okay. So our x-intercept then is what? Is this my x value or my y value? X. So it's 2 comma 0. So one x-intercept is at 2, 0. The other x-intercept, how do I find this?
Just add it.
Add 6 to both sides. Means the other x-intercept is 6, 0. That's right, x equals 6, or 6 equals x. Okay. Now, if you don't like doing algebra, I'll show you guys a shortcut. Okay. Now, I wanted to show you this because some of us like algebra. Some of us like to see where the shortcuts come from, right? This factor, setting these factors equal to 0, that's where our shortcut comes from. Okay. If I look back up here at x minus 2, x minus 6, and I compare it to our factored form, right? What is our m value? Compare it to your factored form.
-2.
Not negative. It's x minus m. Just 2, right? M is just 2. Right? What's our n value? What's it, Doug? 6. N is 6. Now if I look, the m is right there, isn't it? The n is right there. So instead of going through all this, if you can pick out your m and your n, then you know your x-intercepts. Okay? Your x-intercepts, whenever we're in the factored form, this is why I want to leave the space over here for m and n. Whenever we're in our factored form like this, our x-intercepts are m and n. Okay? M and n are the x-intercepts. Okay? Now, when they have x minus m, right, this m right here is positive. Okay? If m was negative, what would we have instead of a minus? We'd have a plus here if m was negative. Okay? So if in this form, our x-intercepts will be m comma 0 and n comma 0. So if you can identify your x-intercepts, or if you can identify your m and your n, then you've identified your x-intercepts. Okay? Or if you want to go through and set the factors equal to 0, you can do that too. Okay? Either way works. This is the shortcut, and that over there is why the shortcut works. Okay? So going back to where we're at. All right. Any questions about that shortcut or why it works? I'm guessing this is the last time you guys do this, isn't it?
No.
No? Okay. Some of you might go through that again. All right.
I don't even get the shortcut.
You don't get the shortcut?
No.
Can you pick out your m and your n?
No.
No? What's in the same spot as m and n in here?
I don't know.
Look at your factored form. What's in the same spot as m and n?
That. Oh. Okay. Numbers.
Numbers. Which numbers?
Simple.
-2, -2.
Not negative. Because the m is minus, right? See, that's x minus m?
Yeah.
Right? This is x minus
2.
2. So what's in the same spot as the m?
2.
2. What's in the same spot as the n?
6.
6. So it's not negative. M is 2, n is 6.
Okay, what about when it's yeah, when it's plus.
Like this?
That's negative.
Okay. Then what's negative?
The 3 and
The 3 is
negative.
negative, and the 5 is
Positive.
positive. Okay, good question. All right, we'll get
Is
to in a
that
second.
is that y-intercept and then the other one's what? X?
Nope, they're both x-intercepts. Because remember, a parabola can cross twice, right? So these are my 2 x-intercepts.
What about the y-intercept?
We'll get to that in a second.
So that one's going to be finding the y, right? The next one.
Nope, we're going to find the y on this one.
The y is the hard
Okay.
part.
No, it's not.
Uh-huh.
I'll show you. Okay,
You only got one.
step 2. Find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, what's 0 in this case? X. Right? So in this equation, I plug in a 0 here and here. Right? So for our y-intercepts, 0 is x. So we do this. Oops. 0 minus 2, and 0 minus 6. Just like that. 0 minus 2, and 0 minus 6. Now, what is 0 minus 2?
-2.
Negative 2. Good.
I thought-
What is 0 minus 6?
Don't act like you know.
6.
What is 0 minus 6?
-6.
Negative 6.
Oh.
Like you're smart.
Guys, take it easy. Okay, gentlemen. All right, so we get 2 times negative 2 and 2 times negative 6. What's 2 times negative 2?
-4.
Negative 4, right? What's negative 4 times negative 6?
-24.
Oh, positive, right? 2 negatives make a positive, right?
Just quit.
Or, guys, or you could plug this in your calculator. Awesome. So, this ends up being y equals negative 24.
That's it?
Yep.
That's way easier.
Rock, you said it was going to be difficult, right?
It is.
You plug in 0 for x,
Yeah.
right?
I'll say negative.
And you try
Yeah,
to
that's
make
why I
fun of
was
him.
Good. Sorry. Thank you, John. Okay.
That's why I was confused.
You plug in 0 for x,
Mhm.
negative 2, negative 6.
Yeah.
Okay? And we just multiply through.
Yeah. I was just confused why it was a negative.
All right. So then our y-intercept, our x is
0.
0, and our y is
24.
24.
Okay.
Are there any questions about how I found the x
I
and
know
y
You
got
gotta
a
intercept?
do all that
question.
work
I
for
know you
one
got a
problem.
question.
Yes.
So,
It's not that difficult
Well, yeah,
though.
you're right.
It's just work. It's not difficult.
I just gave.
Aaron?
So we have 2 x
Yep.
points and 1 y.
Now y given to me, I only have one y because the y-axis is a vertical line, right? Since the y-axis is a vertical line, we can only have one y intercept. Yep. If we had two y's, it would not be a parabola. All right. Now all the way over there, I have a graph, right? Can we make a graph for this parabola?
Of course.
Can we?
Yeah.
Okay. We know the x-intercepts are 2 and 6, right? So here's 2, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 6, 0, right? Now my y-intercept is 0, 24. Now 0, 24 is not my graph. It's probably way up here somewhere, probably maybe even up on the wall. Okay? Is that enough to make my parabola? No, I'm still confused as to what my parabola is going to look like. Okay? So we'll come back to that in a second. All right? If you had to guess, though, does this parabola open up? Does it make a U? Or does it make an N?
A U.
For you.
Think a U, Hunter? Rock, think a U as well?
Yeah.
Okay. This one will make a U. Okay? It'll make a U. Right? Now, whether or not it makes a U depends on the next thing.
Okay.
Our A value. Identify the A. This A tells us if it opens up or opens down. Okay? Jakai, all right? All right. Jakai, what's my A value in this equation? Don't know? Look back at our general form. A times x minus m times x minus n. So what's my A value? It's the 2. Is the 2 positive or negative? Positive. And we said that this was going to open which way again? Up. So when A is positive, it opens
Up.
Upward.
So positive A means it opens up. Okay? Looks like a U. Okay. If positive A means it opens up, what do you guys think a negative A means?
Opens down.
Downward.
Like a
Looks like an N. So it opens down.
yeah, I was like, yeah, shit.
So the other equation we have up here is negative 3 times x plus 3, x minus 5. Is that going to open up or down?
Down.
Open down because my A value is negative 3. So open down. Right? Now, sometimes our equation will look like this. Okay? That fits our factored form, doesn't it? Looks just like it. Other times, it'll look like this. What's different? The n and the x?
Yeah.
In this one,
The N.
It's x minus n, right? You guys see that? In this one, it's what?
N minus x.
N minus x. So what happened to these two? They switched. In this one, x was positive, n was negative. In this one, n's positive, x is negative. So we changed the signs, didn't we? How do I change the signs? What do you multiply by? Nope. How do you change the signs?
By the same,
Multiply by.
the same sign.
What is that, Hunter? Negative 1, right? In order to go from here to here, that means we multiply by a negative 1. So something that looks like this, they're trying to trick you. Because the a is positive, but they have something back here. Okay, the n minus x. If they have it written like that, yep, if they have it written like that, that means that your a has a negative in it.
What?
Okay, see how they're flipped out? X minus n,
Yeah.
n minus x.
Yeah.
Okay, if they flip, if it doesn't look like this, or it looks like that instead, that means that our a has a negative sign in it, but they didn't write it. They flipped the signs.
I don't get that.
So
why does the A- the A doesn't even have
a-
Right. Instead of putting a negative sign here, they flipped the sign on the n on the x.
But that one has a negative too. Though.
Right, but it's x minus n.
So
This
the
one's
A is
n
not
minus
negative.
x.
So x can't be negative,
No,
and then
A is negative.
I just
The
wanna
N-
cry.
when we flip the signs like this, that means that our a is negative.
okay,
Okay.
all right.
So if you get one like that and they don't have a negative out front, they put the negative right here. They're trying to confuse you.
I just don't know why they do that.
Okay, we can help when we get to one that looks like that. Okay.
All
Alright. Now, if they have m minus x, guys, if they have m minus x and n minus x, that means how many negative signs do I have?
Those
2. And 2 negatives make a
positive.
positive. So if they're both flipped backwards,
A is positive.
then your a is positive. Okay? If only one of them's flipped backwards, then your a is negative. All right? Are there any questions
No.
before I move on? Okay. So now we're for sure that we open up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want you guys to do then is I want you to take out your calculators, right? And I want you to just get the y equals, and I want you to graph that. So y equals 2 times x minus 2 times x minus 6. I want you to graph that.
Like,
And then look at your graph. You grab your calculator? Is in your bag? Okay.
Oh,
I don't see mine.
If you don't see yours, hit zoom 6. If you don't see yours, hit zoom 6 if you don't see it.
Zoom X.
I still don't see.
Still don't see it.
Zoom X.
minus
Oh, instead of putting minus sign, I put it.
6. Graph.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, I hate working with calculators.
See? This is right.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Square.
Man, I swear, man, I hate calculators.
They hate you.
Okay, were we right? Did it open up?
Hating on
Did it open up, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, we were right. Okay.
mine didn't do that.
Why'd you put 8?
Looks like that.
It was an accident.
Okay. Guys, it looks like that, right?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
No.
Now, the last thing on our list to be able to do is find our minimum or our maximum. Okay? Now, when A was positive, this is a positive A, right? Guys, it's a positive A, right? It opened
Upward.
upward. Is this point a minimum or maximum?
It's a minimum.
Minimum. So, when A is positive, we get a minimum.
Negative.
Okay? What are you going to say, Austin? If A is negative, we get a what?
Maximum.
Get a max. Okay. Now, we'll need to find that minimum and maximum. Okay. We'll need to find that minimum and maximum. Yes, John?
His calculator was all messed up. It won't go down.
Yeah,
Because
I need
it's
a
when-
new calculator.
His window was all messed up and you try to change it, it won't go down.
Clear though.
Mine's always
You try to clear it.
Just hit zoom 6.
man, that's what I try to
All right. So,
Oh, you got on.
this point right here, we said was my minimum.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, we want to find that minimum. If you look at your graph, or if you look at my graph, where does the minimum happen compared to our intercepts? Look at your calculator if you need to look at it closer. Where does the minimum happen compared to our intercepts? Doug? Right in between them. Good. It happens right in the middle, doesn't it? Isn't this spot right between these two? Yeah. Right? So if this happens at 2 and this happens at 6, what number is between those? 4. Right? We can just count to make sure. So I start at 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half of 4 is 2. So I count over 2. 1, 2. That's when x is 4. Or I can start here and count back. 1, 2. That's when x is 4. Right? Now, are we always going to make a graph? Are we always going to have whole numbers? No. So, an easy way to figure out where that minimum or maximum is we take our m and our n's and we average them. Okay? To find the x value of our min or max, so x of our min or max, what you do is you take your m and your n, you add them together, and you divide by what?
2.
Divide by 2. Okay? So we add them together and divide by 2 to find our x value of our min or max. So we'll figure out what that minimum is. So I want to take this equation. I want to erase all this stuff. Does everybody have this stuff? We got all that stuff for 1 and 2 on our notes? Yeah? Austin, I'm assuming that was a nod for yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, looking at my equation, what's my m value?
Or positive 2.
Positive 2, right? John, you almost said negative, but you caught yourself because you remember the minus sign doesn't mean negative. It means a positive m. So m is 2. What's our n?
Positive.
Positive 6. Right? So m is 2, n is 6. Does that make sense, guys? How I got those?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No.
Yeah? No, why not? Okay. So then to find our x value of our min or our max, we do
Add them together.
add them together and divide by 2.
4.
Now before we go on, is this going to be a min or a max? What's our a value, positive or negative?
Min.
A is
No.
positive, so what is it, Monica? Min or max? Min. When A is positive, it's a min. I know, Austin, but you answered it earlier.
I should have gotten better.
So that's a min. Now, if you do this on your calculator, you might make a mistake. Make sure you do the 2 plus 6 first. So if you're going to do it all in your calculator in one step, you got to put these in parentheses. 2 plus 6 is what? 8. 8 over 2 is?
4.
4.
Negative 4.
So, nope, not negative. Okay. Kind of messed me up. All right. So our x min is 4, right? How do I find my y? No.
Yeah.
Plug 0 in for x.
No! Why would we plug in 0 for x? We figured out the x for our min is what? 4. So why would we plug 0 in for x? What should we plug in for x? 4. If you plug 4 in for x, then we'll find the y.
See?
Right?
So you wouldn't find that?
So we do y equals 2.
This is way too.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a lot of steps. I understand that. I agree with you. It's a lot of steps. But is it difficult stuff?
Yes.
No, it's
No.
simple.
Not
it
actually
could-
too long.
Because
It's pick the numbers, right? Right? It's pick the numbers, plug them into this equation, plug that result into this equation, and then solve from there.
well, usually it's always you plug 0 in for x.
No, that's when we're trying to find intercepts. Okay, we're not trying to find an intercept now. We're trying to find a min or a max.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So what's 4 minus 2? 2.
Thank-
What's 4 minus 6? Negative 2. 2 times 2 is?
4.
4. 4 times negative 2 is?
Negative 8.
Negative 8. So that means our minimum occurs when x is,
Negative 8.
no, x is 4, and y is what, John?
Negative 8.
Negative 8.
I don't get what we're trying
our minimum, this point right here. Okay? So that means that this point right here is 4, negative 8. Okay? That point on our graph, that minimum part on our graph is 4, negative 8. Now, are there any questions before we move on? Any questions? Why